grabbing some water. I'll be right back.
Okay. Welcome, Heather. Welcome, Cruz.
Hey, Noe.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks for the invite. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we have one of our own spiritual hooligans on the call as our special guest speaker, Trystan. So welcome, Trystan. Looks like we have
Thank
him
you
on the
so
line.
much.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure this background works. The background hasn't always worked terribly well.
So we'll give it
Johnson.
Yeah, we'll give it a few minutes. We're not quite even at the hour. Usually I like to wait 3 to 5 minutes after the hour. At least 3 minutes. Give us some time for everybody to trickle in.
Perfect.
Welcome, Becky. Glad to have you here. Welcome, Melanie. Excited to have everybody here. We have quite a few more people who said they were going to be on the call. We'll give us a few minutes. Today I'm excited to introduce Trystan. We'll delve into his formal introduction in a bit. I've known Trystan, I don't know, what would you say, 3 years at least, maybe 4, since
I think
joined the mastermind?
I think I joined Matthews in 2021, so it must have been an arduous journey to think it was 4 years, but it's only been 2.5, pushing 3.
There we go. Time flies.
Yeah.
But I can personally say that I've seen such a transformation from when you joined the mastermind. I think this mastermind, just to say a few words before we even get started, it's a mastermind headed by Matthew Ferry, has been transformational for me. And I see that it has been transformational, at least from an outsider's perspective, for Trystan.
Yeah.
Josh is also part of the mastermind, and he's helped me get this healing conversations and other endeavors on the healing journey, to create space for others off the ground, just from an idea to actually having a space. So grateful for the space that Matthew has created for us to really be able to embrace our most empowered expressions, alongside the many other teachers and mentors that have no doubt shaped Trystan's viewpoints and transformed his expression just like mine. Welcome, Ignacio. Welcome, Rose.
Hey, how you doing, brother? How you doing, Noy? How you doing?
Good. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to log into my computer right now. I'm trying to send the link by email so I can log in my computer.
I'll send it to you if you want.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Drop
Yeah,
your
his
email
email?
in the chat and I'll get it to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Trystan. Welcome, Jacinda. Glad to have you on the call. Welcome, Rose. So glad to see you here. So it's about 6:01. Let's give at least 2 minutes or so to let everybody else trickle in, and then we'll introduce Mr. Trystan Trenberth, personal friend and co-spiritual hooligan in the Ignite Mastermind group, now called the Journey to Millions. He really personifies what it means to be in a mastermind of people that are dedicated to self-improvement and really developing into our healing journeys and really leaning into it and being transformed because, just becoming more aware. Really, it's an exercise and it's a journey of awareness that raises our level of consciousness, and we're able to perceive more in ourselves, and things simply drop off in the process and we embrace a new way of being. We go from, one of the things that we'll be talking about is victimhood to empowerment, which I know for me, I used to be in total victim mode before I got into the mastermind, and being in this mastermind totally raised my awareness. And so glad that Trystan will be sharing his journey here with us. Welcome, Lisa. Wow, looks like we're getting a full house here. Welcome, Luciana. Okay, let's give it at least another minute. Looks like we have enough people here to let's get the ball rolling. As people show up, they'll just oh, looks like we have some echo here. Okay,
I think Ignacio managed to log into his computer. There you go.
there we are. We're
Thank
good
you,
now.
Awesome.
Okay, well let's get the call started. Welcome to Healing Conversations. I'm so happy to see you guys here. This is a space. This is actually a safe space for everybody to be able to express themselves. Our only rules are non-judgment. It's all love and it's all acceptance. And our collective intention here is healing. So tonight I'm honored to introduce you to Trystan Trenberth as our special guest speaker. Trystan's journey from corporate America to entrepreneurship alongside his parallel journey through spirituality promises to inspire us all. Originally from the UK, Trystan is now a financial educator and investor, dedicating himself to empowering others through his platform called Midlife to Millions. He also has a podcast called Birth to Net Worth, where he guides individuals to break free from limiting beliefs surrounding money and embracing financial literacy and abundance. Trystan's insights tonight will revolve around finding peace and acceptance despite all of life's challenges, personal and business, from navigating co-parenting to thriving in the face of adversity. He'll share his transformation from victimhood to empowerment, really his transformation, shedding light on the power of raising your level of awareness, your consciousness, and embracing personal growth. Welcome, Trystan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So thank you everybody for joining us. Looks like we've got quite a crowd. Becky, lovely to see you. Becky's a huge contributor behind the scenes to the mastermind. I think she's the person behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz that Matthew is with the MJM, along with Kristen. And so my journey. Let me give you a bit of background. I was born in the UK, in the most southwesterly point of the UK, Cornwall. Kind of a rural town, really. It's a town my dad grew up in. My dad knew pretty much everyone around town. It's a very peaceful kind of county. You guys have states over here. We have counties. The country's a lot smaller. And I grew up around the beach, around the ocean, and just such a spiritual place. I didn't feel that I was spiritual at the time necessarily. And I went to church with Church of England, church my parents went to. They grew up Methodist. And then I think Heather's in twice there. There we go. So grew up around kind of religion. And when I was about 12, I decided that I didn't want to go to church anymore. I thought there was going to be some resistance, but finding my voice, just said to my parents, hey, I don't believe this. I don't really want to go to church anymore. And they were fine with it. At that point, I became kind of atheistic for many, many years. And probably through till about the middle to the late 2000s. I went through a journey of hotel management and then got into IT for many years. And around 2008, I met a couple here in Phoenix. I was working at the Fry's Electronics at the time. I found an affinity with these two people, just struck up a friendship with them. And, within a few weeks, maybe less, started to do a bit of energy work with them. And that was really what allowed me to let go of atheism. And I wasn't like a hardcore atheist in some ways, but I was very much show me the proof and I'll believe it kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? That if it's show me the proof and absolutely I'm on board with it. It was a little bit cocky at times, I'm sure. But then moving into this energy work where they would ask me to breathe and they would touch different places on my body and ask me to breathe to that place. And I then became aware that I was able to breathe to different places and aware that there was a movement of energy based on my maybe command of energy or maybe my request of energy to go to certain places through that breath. And from that point, that's when I became, I would say, more agnostic and understanding a relationship with the universe instead of a God. I was still kind of anti the expression God as it related to religion and the control of people. But and I know it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie. I'm going to move backwards and forwards a little bit here. 2003, I met who is now my ex-wife in Seattle after being a pen pal for 2 or 3 years. Got married, moved to the UK. After a year and a half, she fell pregnant. She wanted to move back here. There was a lot of drama in the family situation. It was, if I look back and see the red flags, I would have otherwise not got married. Do you want to pin it in the corner, Noe? I don't know if you know the pin command or spotlight. If you look in the top right corner where I am, you'll see mute, and then you'll see 3 dots. If you say pin, that'll just pin me to the screen. So if there's any other noise, then I won't.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Pin to the top. Got it.
Yeah.
You are.
And so if you pin, and then I should replace you on the screen.
There you are, your pin.
Got it. Okay. So, you know, it wasn't a great marriage. Had 2 kids, which I'm absolutely grateful for. And I always, after seeing my brother as a parent and me being an uncle, I just knew that I wanted to have kids. And, you know, through scarcity mindset and maybe wanting to be in a marriage with kids and stuff, I rushed into things, and we were pen pals, and I mistook the relationship for more than it really was as pen pals. You know, in 2009, we decided, living in the US, that we were going to move to the UK because she identified her family finally as being very toxic to the relationship and not healthy. We moved to the UK, and things were better for a bit, but all of her family came over to visit for Christmas, and that's kind of where it went a little haywire at that point. She missed all of the drama that she had left behind, and then started to want to reach back. It was like that drunk monkey of, hey, I miss all of that drama. So she wanted to come back. I agreed eventually for her to come back with the kids. She wanted a 3-month separation with the kids, but after 5 days, my eldest called me and said, Daddy, I'm never coming back to England. So I realized that my fear had been realized, that they weren't coming back, and it wasn't a plan to do a separation. It was a plan to leave. So I filed a parental abduction suit. I filed for divorce. And, you know, the next few months weren't pleasant. And, you know, hello victim in a big way. Hello pride that I need to be better than, and all of these different emotions and realizations, but all with the support of this couple, Susan and forget his name now, Graham, Susan and Graham, working with me virtually from the US, with energy work and just support, really. So it's having, you know, people that I was more in alignment with supporting me, but all around me, my family was, oh, you got to trust her, she's your wife, and all that stuff, and my mum. But I knew that that wasn't really the way forward. My intuition was telling me otherwise, and that was a big step in my life, letting them go to the US. I knew that was going against my intuition, and that was something that I've had to forgive myself for, is going against my intuition. So I had a journey of like 10 years, probably before 10 or 11 years before meeting Matthew and Noe and the crew here, where it was very difficult. I was raised independent. I could cook for myself after going to hotel management school. I learned how to cook. I was comfortable in the kitchen. I'm not an amazing chef, but able to create and feed myself, iron, wash, laundry, all of those things. So I could do stuff myself. And it was like I didn't need a wife, but she wasn't doing those things either in the marriage. So then when we got divorced, I was in a position of, I need to show my kids that a parent can be okay on their own. And it was almost a trauma response to be ultra independent in that sense, to as almost a fuck you, that I'm a better parent because I can do this on my own without family and all the other people around. My family is supportive of me, but not the spiritual hooligan type that sees some of the perspectives that I see now and that I saw at the time. So working through all of that was very painful for the kids, for myself. I was so resisting being a victim that I became the victim in the situation. There was a lot of pride. I then became humble in putting my kids' needs ahead of my own and my ex-wife's needs ahead of my own and giving in. And I'm referring to the survival, remind me, the 10 hidden motives that Matthew kind of speaks of when I'm talking about these terms. So all of these showed up in many different ways and many different proportions over those years. And it was, and my kids were also evolving through their journey with mental health. As a parent that's never had mental health issues, at least that I'm aware of, but they have a mother that does have all of the challenges that they've seemingly inherited, they weren't displaying themselves easily to be, this is depression, this is anxiety, these are all of these things. Hormones come along. I feel that my kids are angry with me, that I've done something wrong, or that I can never do anything right. So I'm now lowering my own levels of self-esteem because I'm a failure as a father and all of these different things. And through this, I'm providing. I've got a regular job, and I've changed a couple of jobs over that 10-year period. But it's still, something isn't fulfilling for me. Something isn't right. And I hadn't been able to identify that until really getting around Matthew's community and really seeing things from a different perspective. It wasn't that I was blind to it. I just wasn't aware that it was there, but it was around me, but I just hadn't got my eyes open to look in that direction. It was the blinkered, the focus of being attached, as we refer to it, being attached to how it should be, how I want it to be, and not being aware that there's so much around me that is maybe a lot better or a lot different than I'm expecting it to be and that I'm living, that I wasn't living into my own experience. I wasn't being fulfilled myself. So I was giving from an empty glass, as the expression goes. So I've just come through so many amazing experiences the last 3 years of realizing I wasn't wrong. I was on my journey, and now I'm seeing things from a different perspective. So I have compassion for myself. I have compassion for those people around me, such as my ex-wife and my kids. And now it's a much more freeing world to be in, knowing that nobody's wrong. Everyone's doing the best they can. I'm in survival. I'm trying to protect myself and my kids in the way I feel they needed to be protected. She's doing the same thing from her perspective in protecting the kids and telling them things that I don't think that they should be told, for example. And all of this is a survival tactic that I thought was wrong. It doesn't make it right, but I have compassion for the fact that it's happened. I'm accepting that it's happened. There's nothing I can really do about it to change the past nor change the future, but I can just be okay with what it is and live what I feel is my authentic truth by letting go of all of these emotions and thoughts that come around survival and wanting to beat somebody else, not in a physical way, but in a moral way, to overcome and be the better person. Whereas letting go of that attachment and the commitment to the results of everyone being better and everyone understanding each other and having compassion for each other is a much more liberating space to live and to be. And through corporate America in 2021, I was laid off from my corporate job. I'd been investing in real estate, or getting into the investing in real estate, for about a year and a half at that time, which gave me an opportunity to express myself even more. I've had some levels of success that I don't necessarily acknowledge myself. And it's not that I've become a billionaire or a millionaire or any of those things, but I've had levels of success in expressing some of my innate abilities, such as connection with people, compassion with people, understanding, and not being the grinder and the hustler that everyone else seems to be around me in the real estate world. I'm not an agent, I'm an investor. But still, even more so, there's a lot of status in real estate, especially in the investment world, where people are showing off Lamborghinis and watches and whatever that might be to them that makes their insecurity feel better for a moment or two. I haven't lived into any of those things where I need to be showing off with different things. I'm sure I have been prideful in some areas. I could probably identify a couple if I was called to do that, but just to acknowledge myself. But it's living through the balance and being leaning in towards balance instead of imbalance, which some people want to have riches for the reason of being better than somebody else and showing an excessive overcoming of an insecurity or a lack that they had in childhood or their earlier life or a trauma. I can't think there's a big trauma in my life that I've had as a young person. Marriage was traumatic, but now I can lean into it as a gift and look at, I use an analogy. So imagine you got a Kit Kat chocolate bar, right? So if you go, you're checking out of the Kroger's or Fry's, the grocery store, and you got the end caps and they got candy, they got chewing gum. You pick up one of those candy bars, and without unwrapping it, you just put it in your mouth and bite it, and it's going to taste pretty rough because you got wrapper around it. Imagine every experience in your life has the potential to be a chocolate bar, especially the negative ones. So marriage, divorce, the experience of being married, breaking up, the post-divorce, all of this trauma is really, and assuming you like chocolate in the analogy, imagine the experience is the wrapper around the chocolate bar. Until you peel back the chocolate and look for the gift that's inside it that you can be grateful for, that experience is going to be disempowering and weakening for you. But once you can look at, we looked at worst case scenarios last weekend. When we can look into a worst case scenario and elicit a best case scenario from that worst case scenario, that's being open-minded and being able to be grateful for the potential that something may occur or has occurred, and lean into the gratitude for what it can give us as a result of having that experience to benefit ourselves, recontextualize, have compassion for ourselves and others, and really gain the maximum benefit from every experience and lean into every experience as though it's strengthening or has the opportunity to be strengthening when we can remove those blinkers and actually see outside of the constraints of right and wrong or good and bad. And through the real estate business, I've done not really a lot of work the last 2 years. I've made some money. I've not made huge amounts of money compared to others, but I don't compare myself to others. I contrast where people are doing things that I'm not or where I'm doing things that others are. But I'm not in comparison mode. I'm not in lack, fear, or failing in that sense. And I've had a lot of successes, and my natural, whether it's a British ability, whether it's just a lack of appreciation of myself in some ways, that there are so many things I take for granted about myself, how I speak to people, how I conduct conversation with sellers, how I can, show love towards people that don't love themselves, and have an embrace for somebody that isn't willing to embrace themselves or others, and lean into somebody with an opportunity instead of resistance. So many of these things I've lent into myself, and now I can see that, shit, I looked at my tax return last year or the year before, or the revenue that my company made. I didn't realize I made over $1 million in revenue. It makes absolute sense from the number of properties that I flipped. It wasn't profit that was over $1 million, nowhere near that. But having those ideas when people say, oh, I made $1 million last year. Oh, what percentage of that did you keep? It's not to make them wrong, but it's to realign with what somebody is purporting to be in success, that they made $1 million, but they maybe kept 20 or 30 because they had a high cost on their business and they didn't really make much profit. But I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm able to live, and I've had some very low points financially over the last couple of years, and working with Matthew has given me an appreciation for that, to lean into the acceptance, not to desire more in a negative sense of lack, but to then have the appreciation of, I don't need anything to be happy with myself or my surroundings. I'm very fortunate to have bought a seller financed house at 3% 3 years ago, and now it's almost doubled in value since I bought it. There are so many things that, other people haven't bought houses in the last 3 years and haven't had that opportunity, and they haven't got other opportunities to offset tax. It's just looking at things from a different perspective, and not that I've lost and I missed opportunity. There is opportunity that I potentially could have taken, I didn't, but I'm where I am now because I chose the path that I did, or I chose the decisions in the moment, and that's led me to where I am. I was talking to Lisa earlier on. She was saying about, well, I don't know where my point B is. And I offered, maybe there's no point B. If we imagine ourselves as a water molecule, we could be evaporated into the sky, into a cloud, and we could rain down over a completely different country and end up in the ocean outside Peru, where we actually evaporate from a river in Colorado, and that water molecule could end up in New Zealand or in a rain cloud over the Andes or the Mount Kilimanjaro. So where I was going with that is that we're just energy. We're nowhere to begin with and we're nowhere to end. We're always in movement, and being appreciative of where we are is, there's no B and there's no A and there's no Z. It's just being very present to where we are at this moment, and knowing that we may be physically in the same location we were yesterday or last year, but we're in a completely different mind. We're a different soul than we were a year ago because of the experiences we've had, realizations, recontextualization that we've had, and something that in the last 3 months that has changed my context massively is jumping out of airplanes. I've done 51 skydives in the last 3 months. I did 8 when I was 18 and 19. And I've always wanted to do the accelerated freefall course, which is 25 jumps with some instructors, and they take you through the disciplines of managing your body in the wind and flying the canopy and many other things. And I was standing in the doorway of the airplane the first weekend with a feeling, a heavy feeling in my kind of lower chest, top of my gut, really. And I was sitting with it. And I'm not a muscle tester, and we can talk about what that is later on if we need to, but I've not really learned to muscle test, but I've seen kind of how it can be done and the principles of it. So I kind of tried to balance myself to that I was good to sort of test. And I was trying to understand what this feeling was. And I realized that there was a fear. And what was the fear that I was feeling? And I've filed a child support modification in December for context. And it was a guilt of the fact that I was spending $4,000 on a skydiving course when I was asking to change my child support for my kids, and why that I might be a victim of being busted for this. And but fuck it, I was going to do it anyway. The pride was coming through that you deserve it. But in between all of that was, this is my experience, and I put off my experience for 12, 13 years to put other people's needs ahead of my own. The last 2 years have been so much personal growth with some real estate. And it's not that I deserve it, that I'm justifying that experience, but this was the time in my life at 48 that was the right time to do it, because the opportunity came along. I took the opportunity. And once I had reconciled and accepted that feeling and shifted that into gratitude, and the great thing that was also happening at the time was I was listening to a book by Dr. David Hawkins called Letting Go through this time that I was doing the skydiving course. And it was so relevant to exactly that process that I've just described, which was sit with the feeling, try and understand it, try and just appreciate it and accept it. Try and contextualize where the feeling is coming from and let it go. So I just went through that process maybe 2 or 3 times over 2 or 3 weeks. And it comes up sometimes, but just the awareness of it now, I can just be grateful for seeing like Saturday, I remember we were in the plane and the sun was at just the angle that where the airplane was taking off. I could see the shadow of the plane beside us on the runway and beside the field, just disappearing at the same proportion that we were elevating in the sky. And it was just such a beautiful picture to be grateful for before standing on the edge of the plane, looking out and then letting go and being completely present with where I was in the sky. Time is about 55 seconds when you're falling from the plane before you open your canopy, the parachute. And the gift that it's given me is such presence in that moment. Time seems to slow down And it seems like many minutes that you're in free fall, that I'm in control and moving my body and connecting with other people or doing whatever we're doing. But the gift of, I needed that right now, clearly, because that's where the opportunity came from to now relate being more present in my own everyday life with work and everything else. It has its moments where it shows up of being present, and there's a lot of moments where it isn't, but I can lean into that to be an inspiration to, well, the more I do with this work thing, be focused and bring results, the more skydiving I can go and do. And, you know, I think by the third or fourth quarter this year, I'd love to be bringing in $20,000 of passive income every month, which well exceeds my living expenses and allows me to have fun and go and travel and skydive around the world, all being well. I think it was in September last year when we were in Irvine that I set the intention to spend 2 months in Southeast Asia at the beginning of this year. Well, Matthew will tell you there's no bad goals, there's just bad timelines. So that destination and that trip is not yet planned or scheduled, but I know I'm moving towards it, and having the skydiving experience now to incorporate in that trip is now shifting where I was blinkered to just go in and sit on a beach and trying to chill out for 2 months and not do anything, into now having much different and much more full experiences on my trip, where I can sit on a beach for a week or a month, but I can also go to Jakarta or Bali or somewhere else and jump out of airplanes or scuba dive and do so many more things, that those things are opening up to me free of guilt, free of, any of these victim and pride type things, that it's just part of this beautiful experience that we have the opportunity to do. And today, right now, is the only opportunity we have to do it. So making the difference now, leaning into the spirituality, if that's what you want to call it, is just so freeing and opens us up to the opportunity to experience ourselves in a much more free and fruitful way. Let me look at the script again from what we said we were going to talk about. So parallel path of spirituality. So I think leaving my day job, being let go, freed, laid off, whatever term you want to use, was just so great, because it led me into the real estate wholesaling world, where I met Jamil, who was the one that introduced me to Matthew. And I can just look back and map so many synchronicities, not just in the last 3 or 4 years, but I can map back so many places in my whole life where I made decisions that led me to where I am right now. Had I made one decision slightly differently, I wouldn't be in this place of abundance and warmth and jumping out of airplanes when I chose to do so. And it's not that I'm so financially abundant that I can go every day and do this, but the freedom that I can do it at times that make sense for me and my business and my personal finances to do that. Had I not married that woman, I wouldn't have had 2 wonderful children that give me so much joy and so much learning from the contentious situations that we have arise from time to time, and the misalignment of our expectations of each other, that I can now grow through and be accepting of much more easily. And as a dad, I think as a parent, don't we want to fix things for our kids? Don't we want to protect them from things and make sure that no harm comes to them, or if there's a problem, that we can solve it? I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, somebody said to me, when your daughters and ladies, tell me if this is inaccurate, but it was aimed more at my children being female. They said, when your kids are telling you things, do you ask them, are you telling me this because you want me to fix a problem, or you want a solution, or are you telling me because you want to be heard? And I didn't take that on until that point, and I've put that in more and more. So I'm now even more accepting of what's going on and not trying to change anything, and accepting it as perfect and, complete as it is. And now I can lean into them and be accepting that they're not so affectionate these days. I love cuddling my kids and loving on my kids. They're not in that stage right now. Maybe they never will be again, but I can still now have that appreciation for not missing out on hugs and the change that, they're now teenagers or whatever it is. And one thing I said to them on their birthday, it was inspired by I think it was Joe in the group, or somebody else. I said, how do you want me to show up as your dad for the next year? You're in whatever stage you are in life. How do you want me to be? What do you want me to be for you as your dad? How do you want me to show up for you and love you and just be present for you? And that was a game changer for me to conceptualize it in that way, that maybe give them the power to tell me how it should be instead of me asserting how they should be loved based on my requirements or my expectations. And they haven't told me yet, but I remind them, every few weeks, hey, just reminding you, let me know how I can do it, because I can't win. We can't win together. We can't succeed unless you give me that insight. And that empowers them to take on who they want me to be, and also influences, I think, potentially who they will be based on who they need me to be. Does that make sense? So it's almost like a reciprocal agreement that, Dad, I want you to be this for me. Now I know how you are choosing to show up in my world, and I can be accepting and compassionate towards that too. So I don't necessarily think there's a great conclusion here, but does anybody have any questions or insights or feedback? I know that's probably quite confusing, going back and forth like a Quentin Tarantino movie, and I'm not a director like he is, but share if anybody wants to share or feedback, ask anything, feel free to do so.
Thank you,
I can
Trystan, for
elaborate.
sharing. No, you did an excellent job. This is our opportunity to have our guest speaker here. He'll answer, or he'll attempt to answer whatever questions there may be some reflection, something you're going through, something that he already has some wisdom to share with us. Looks like Luciana, you unmuted yourself.
Yes, I want to thank you for bringing it up. What you just said about your children. I do have 2 boys, and I am not, I'm divorced as well. So to me, to communicate with them and to tell them that is basically what I was looking for, a way of connecting with them in expecting that responsibility, that exchange. Like you said, how do you want me to show up in your life? And at the same time, like, how am I gonna, that will be an expectation of me to them. And I also can have the same expectation to myself. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I've never thought about it that
You're very
way.
welcome. And one of the things that, in the situation where they're confusing a divorce and hearing different things from their mum than they're experiencing from me, and that they're drunk monkeys, their stories are creating about me and their mum and everyone involved, is not giving excuses for who I've been, but to be vulnerable and say, this was my intent. I've always loved you, and this was the way that I was trying to love you, and I realized that may not have been workable. That may not have been working 100%. Maybe it was 1%, maybe it was 80%, maybe it was 50%. This is how I really wanted to be for you, and I acknowledge it didn't work. So I took accountability for not being wrong, but just not in alignment with who they've been. And the fact that maybe we didn't communicate and ask that same question 2, 3, 5 years ago, and maybe they didn't know the answer and didn't know the context of that at the time. But now we're at a point where we're in the present again, as we always are, instead of living in the past, that Dad didn't do what we thought he should have done, and he was trying to fix things that didn't want to be fixed, or whatever it was. We bring it to the present, we acknowledge the past, we have an apology or just make peace with it. And I might be at peace, but they may not be. But it shows that I'm more at peace afterwards. Not to make them wrong for not being at peace, but it makes position where I'm vulnerable to them, they can maybe have some more compassion that they didn't before of what I was trying to do, but it didn't come off the way it was anticipated. It may have been completely off, but it's me exposing myself. I heard an expression recently. They said, unless you truly open your heart, if you truly open your heart, you can never be hurt. If you truly open your heart, you can never be hurt. Because it's the drunk monkey that's trying to protect your heart and close it up and protect it from things that causes injury to happen, because it's what we make it mean. But if we open our heart and we're completely accepting and compassionate to everything and everyone, as if you kick somebody in the leg, you're actually kicking yourself in the leg. If we're part of the one universe expressing itself in infinite ways, we're kicking ourselves in the leg energetically by kicking somebody in the leg, figuratively speaking, that we're only injuring ourselves by injuring others. So if we take away that injury from ourselves, then that may not hurt so much for the person that thought they were being angry or thought they were wrong, badly done by. It's just a story or an idea, but the more we can be at peace with ourselves and show we're at peace with ourselves, that arrogance or making somebody wrong, we're just inviting and being accepting of who they are, who they want us to be, and who they were. And they understand that they're going on a journey through the evolution of the symptoms of anxiety, depression, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, and maybe other things, maybe a combination, So acceptance, compassion, and vulnerability, and just making as much peace as you can with yourself, and then sharing that with others, that hopefully they may one day be at peace with you, or
Yes.
more compassionate towards you in the position that you were trying to fulfill for them with their needs at heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think I speak for all of us that one of your reflections really speaks to the compassion that we have for ourselves and others when you said that we are all doing the best we can. Everyone, no exception, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a horrible father, mother. I want to
Right.
do something,
Yeah.
No, I feel like deep down inside, we all want to do what's best for ourselves, for our family, and we're just simply doing the best we can. So what a beautiful reflection. Do we have any other reflections, comments, questions for Trystan? Anything that you may need support on, that you may be going through that resonates? I know I probably have some, oh, there you go, Rose.
So, first, I want to say thank you and how beautiful your story was, because I'm also a single mother of twins and going through co-parenting and all that stuff and the victim mindset. And when you spoke about balance, that taking accountability of our own self, our mindset, our behaviors, and understanding our feelings, and also at the same time being aware that our actions affect other people, especially our loved ones. And this, so I appreciate that, because it kind of bothers me sometimes when I hear people like, oh, when they're like, oh, you are only responsible for your own feelings, and then it kind of negates the other people experiences, that we are emotional creatures. We absorb people feelings and emotions. Unless you're a robot, you can really block it off, but but we feel them. And I think yes, taking accountability of our own feelings and healing our trauma, and at the same time acknowledging and being aware that our actions can cause our loved ones pain. And that's one thing that I've been working on, in this victimization mindset. And it's funny because the more I heal, like I thought I got this part already. I thought this part is healed. And then universe would show me a different way. It's like, nope, not yet. There's more.
It's not that it's unhealed, but there's just another layer of the
yes,
onion
another
to pass,
layers.
I
Yes. so I feel that that compassion to self too plays a big role, because like I thought having all these skills, I have all these coping skills, like in managing my trauma, understanding my feelings, but there's actually a lot of more stuff that we don't know, that's hidden, unconscious. And then when they come up, and that's when a compassion comes in, and that, you know what, you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
And at this, and I forgive you, and it's not gonna be it's not gonna be good every single time, but I'm gonna understand your pain, where it's coming from, and forgive and accept it, that we're humans. We're humans. It's a human nature to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Not to put yourself in a pedestal that, oh, I have, because I'm in a spiritual field, I expect myself to be 100% calm. That's not realistic. So I love that we're embracing our humanness, our human nature, that yes, we're gonna fuck up, but guess what, I'm gonna meet it with compassion and understanding and acceptance.
And I think it comes down to the awareness. The more spiritual, more further down the journey we become, the sooner we can identify it and have the compassion and be aware of it and accept it. And it's not that we'll never be upset or in a state of chaos, but it's the tools we have to return to a state of peace more quickly from those states of chaos. You said something a few minutes ago, and I wanted to reflect on it, and I was following you and I didn't keep that train of thought.
Was it the thought that nobody can make us feel any particular way? And then she said something about the accountability and that people do affect us. That was what she said early on.
Possibly, yeah. I think I was leaning into, with my kids going through what they were, and you were talking about we can only be responsible for our own feelings. A lot of us are empathic, that are in higher levels of consciousness and greater awareness. It's the intuition and empathy that goes hand in hand with feeling what's around us as well as what's within ourselves. And I think where I was going with this was, I can be on the road, somebody's really up my ass in the car, and they're beeping to get around me. I have this feeling that comes to me, and I didn't know that it was somebody else's. I thought it was my fear. But then when I realized that I was an empath, whose feeling is this? I used to ask myself, is it mine? And it didn't feel strong. Is it somebody else's? And as soon as the person drove off, the feeling was gone. And in the same way with my kids being seemingly angry with me and expressing themselves in that way, maybe I thought it was negative energy that they had from their mum was kind of my story. But becoming more aware of my empathic abilities, I realized that it was trauma and pain that I was feeling from them through their experience, and I could have compassion for that because it's not their fault. They're just experiencing what they're experiencing. I'm accepting of it. And once I could do that, then it's not my fault. I'm not the bad dad. It's not me failing, but it was really not realizing what the expression was my downfall, but it wasn't a failure. It was just a lack of awareness to what was going on. And there's no blame for that. But once I became aware of it, I researched a lot and I buried myself in talking to people. I didn't talk about mental health with my kids. My family in the UK thought everything's fine for years because there was some shame in me that I can't tell my family that my kid was suicidal or wasn't feeling good. That was shame. But once I started talking about it, then that freed me up. It wasn't that I was telling everybody, but talking to other people, I found many other parents, oh, I'm not the only one, was the feedback I got. Thank you for telling me that. That's given me so much hope, or, giving me a different perspective and giving me peace, not peace, but some tools now to feel not alone. And the irony is that one of the biggest challenges for those with depression, anxiety, and mental health issues is they feel alone, especially when suicide's involved. Well, what about the parents and the siblings of the kids that are struggling with these things? They feel probably they're the only ones that are going through this and nobody's going to understand. So opening your arms and embracing the situation and bringing it love and sharing that love outwards enables others to realize that they're not the only one. And that creates more peace as well. And it brings a conversation, it brings more awareness, it brings confidence and certainty that maybe somebody will take their life. It's not our decision or not our choice to save them, so to speak, but we can be there for them in a different way, which is not challenging that there's something wrong, that they should be thinking these ways, but supportive of them along the journey of allowing their journey to take place. And hopefully that journey will involve compassion with themselves and understanding and acceptance to give them the opportunity to move through in a meaningful and empowering way, to feel that less and less and less as they progress through life and develop that self-esteem, the confidence, and the love for themselves by not seeking it in others or thinking that they're worthless, that they're a negative for the planet, that their planet would be better without them, that really they offer something to this planet which is unique and special. Without them, it would be different. But I think service is one of those things where people that are suicidal can often grab, and in addiction as well, can find purpose in their own life by serving others and seeing the difference they make in others' life, which gives them a greater value of themselves.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for that. I highly resonate. I realize that it's not the pain that happened to us, is that we are alone in our pain. That's what makes it like traumatic, especially for kids.
Yeah.
It's like, because pain is inevitable. It's part of life. They happen. We go through things. But when kids feel like alone, like nobody's there for me to witness my pain, to understand, comfort, nurture, and that's when that's when the energy gets stuck in our body and hold it in and cause trauma when we feel alone in our pain.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for your reflection, Trystan. I've talked to Trystan as well on the whole being a dad and dealing with the context. You know, I want to preface this by saying that life ain't nothing until we call it, right? But it can be a very painful journey when you have children that are suicidal. I went through my phase of having to process something like that, and it was so painful to live with that fear in your gut, right? It's I had to just simply surrender that, and and also acknowledge that sometimes breakdowns are actually, all the time, breakdowns are part of the breakthroughs. Sometimes we get stuck on one side of the coin of the equation, but we fail to realize that there's the other side of the coin. And sometimes our children go through periods of time that are very painful, but on the other side is sunshine. And so leaning into that life ain't nothing until we call it, suspending judgment, and simply being there to support our family, right? Is sometimes the surrender that we do by sending them love and holding space for them to allow them to go through their journey and honoring their expression, right? We're all doing the best we can, and life is happening. And when we judge life, that's when we get ourselves into knots. But life doesn't stop upon our judgment. It continues going. And as soon as we judge it, we're the ones getting stuck. However, life continues on. And that's the other side of the coin that I just referenced, right? That breakdown really is the breakthrough. Like sometimes, I know for me, I had to hit my head on the wall, not literally, but figuratively, right? A few times to basically wake up and see, wait a second, that's the breakdown. And then the breakthrough happened.
Yeah, so all comes with acceptance of the breakdown is the start of us then seeing the breakthrough.
Well, I think we have time for maybe one or two more reflections, questions.
I have a question. Actually, it's more like a ask for help. as like the kids, I feel that they are protecting a lot their feelings, and I haven't been able to break through. So, going back to what you said earlier, it gave me a different perspective. But would you have a different suggestion in terms of, because I know you have to hold time for them to grow and evolve and mature and work on that, themselves. And I want to be there, but I don't want to push to be there. I don't know how to explain. I hope you understand what I'm asking.
I think sort of. I mean, no, reply if you want, but I think that when we look at a coin, there's two sides of it, and you got to flip it over to see the other side. But it's really an ongoing thing where we might wish the breakthrough comes sooner, but sometimes it's a deeper level of acceptance and finding gratitude in the situation, which is, for me, very often the time when the breakthrough starts to come, when I've had the gratitude for the thing and really embraced it, instead of resisting it, stopping it, continuing by stopping it, instead of embracing it, allowing it to then pass from the acceptance and gratitude for it and loving it in some ways, to then, once you love it, then it can love you back and you can gain the breakthrough the other side. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Also, what I hear you saying, Luciana, is it feels like there's an attachment to how it should be,
Yeah.
right? That's what it feels like. Like they should be more open with us. They should be able to express themselves. There should be this open line of communication, and it hurts us when
No, no,
our
no.
expectations are not met.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is create a way for them to open up. It's not like I don't expect them to do it. It's just it's a very complicated situation that we went through. They basically both lost both parents out of nowhere. One we separated, and I had to leave and stay away from them for 2 years through health surgery that I had to do, and so I was gone from my grandson and my oldest son and my youngest son, and now I'm trying to recreate that connection that we had before, and they are protecting themselves because it wasn't good for them what they went through.
They fear losing you again if they open up to accept you, that they may lose you again.
Yeah, and it wasn't my fault though. I mean, it was like life. I had to have, a brain surgery. I didn't want to do it here with the situation the way it was going. So I went to Brazil, where I'm from, to be with my family there because I knew I needed support recovering. But they were here, they were safe. They had family, his wife's family and my youngest, her family. So I was okay. It hurt, but I was okay going because I knew they were safe. But now it's been really hard to break through that and bring that back, that connection we had.
So I hear that you're not at peace. You may not be at peace with the outcome of what happened. Maybe journal with yourself and write a letter to yourself, forgiving yourself for
I think
being
I'm the
attached
one.
to that outcome, because I think the forgiveness is with you, not them, first. And then then in peace, you can maybe communicate with them and say, and like I did with my kids, be vulnerable with them and say, I know you didn't like it. I can tell that it caused a lot of rift between us. I've always loved you. I've always wanted to be close to you, but for me to survive and live, I didn't see any other choice. I did the best I could at that time. And that meant to be around my family, because being divorced from your dad, he wasn't going to take care of me after a surgery. You weren't old enough to take care of me after a surgery, and I wouldn't have expected you to do that, even though you may have tried. The best place I could be was around my family that were physically and, you know, in a level of maturity that they could help me and be that. And I'm sorry that I couldn't take you there. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. Maybe your dad would have been worried I wouldn't have brought you back if I took you with me, and I couldn't do that to him. But I knew that I trusted him, and I loved him, that he loved you and would take care of you. But I know that you wouldn't have understood at the time, and I tried to tell you, or I didn't tell you because I didn't think you would understand. I'm sorry that I didn't try and explain. Maybe you would have understood, maybe you wouldn't have done. I can't change the past, but I can only offer ask for forgiveness myself. I didn't want to have brain surgery. I didn't want to have a reason for brain surgery. That was something I couldn't help. I was scared. I did the best I could. I didn't want to convey that fear to you and make you scared. I wanted to have you around your dad who could love you and be there for you, and take myself away so that you didn't get scared of losing me and me dying, which I could have done. But I'm here and I survived, and I'm a miracle because I am here and I'm with you. And it's a miracle that you're here and we can communicate. I would just love a greater miracle to take place if over time you may find it in your hearts to forgive me for doing the best I could. And I certainly understand and forgive you for doing the best that you did, and having the reason to protect your heart from losing me again. I will die one day. We're all going to die one day. It's not to lessen the impact of that, but I want to enjoy and maximize the love and share every moment we can together in the years that we do have, vulnerably and openly, and be able to enjoy every moment together that we can. And that healing may take time. I don't expect it to happen today. Just know that's where I would love the outcome to be. But if it doesn't happen, you choose that. I won't necessarily like it, but I will respect that, and I will appreciate and love you in that way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
perfectly
you so
said.
much. I think it starts with me. I need to forgive because I didn't have any other option.
Yeah.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just
And
forgive
you-
yourself, forgive them.
Yeah.
Practice, forgiving and releasing them, forgiving and releasing yourself. Like Tristan said, you're doing the best you can. They're doing the best they can.
You were scared you might have died. What other choice did you have at that time when, it's like the fight or flight. It's not because you wanted to run away from them, but you were fighting for your life. And the best way you thought you could do that was with your family. And you knew that they were safe with their dad, but you also weren't in a position to be able to communicate to them effectively without scaring them, that they might lose you right then, that you might die, and that you may never come back and may never see them again, but you did. And you're here, you're around them, you're doing the best you can and loving them in the best way you can. And ask for their compassion and forgiveness and understanding that your relationship may not be what you wish it might be. It may not be what they wished it to be, but there is the possibility, and it's up to them to choose what kind of relationship they truly want with you, outside of the fear of what they may lose by having that. What they can gain for the next 10, 20, 30 years of you living together in this world is much greater than what they fear losing, because again, it's creating a story of what they may lose, and they're avoiding losing something they don't yet have, because neither of you have been able to open your hearts fully with each other to experience the beauty and the love that's available for you all, and to then appreciate each other when we do pass on for what we did experience, instead of them regretting. And this is nothing that I'm suggesting you tell them, but to avoid them regretting not creating that bond and that
Not
love
having
and
that
relationship
time.
with you until you pass.
Yes,
The fear
I,
of regret of not having that relationship with you for them may be greater than the opportunity that they than risking losing you, which they will do one day, and having the love and that beauty between you in that time.
yes, I think that's that's a big reason for them. And I feel that they are protecting their feelings, their heart,
Yeah.
especially my oldest, he's a dad, he has two little ones, so he is just, I can tell, I look at my children and I see them so tight, and I just wish there was something that I could, and that maybe I can approach them this way. And yeah, thank you so much for your input.
My pleasure.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, little past here. I so appreciate you, Trystan, for sharing
Yeah.
your journey, sharing your wisdom and all your insights, and really moving energy here, really bringing awareness to all of us, right? Reflection.
I'm sorry to
sure-
make your audience cry.
No, no,
That's beautiful.
I
That's
cry
moving
a lot.
energy.
I cry a lot. I'm very emotional. I'm the Brazilian girl.
So yeah, no, that's the whole purpose of this call, to leave things here at the call. Let's be refreshed, let's feel lighter, let's smile. Sometimes
Yeah.
we get so heavy
Yes,
with life, right? This is
Yeah.
a place to get a little lighter. That's the intention.
yes,
So appreciate you guys all for showing up and supporting what we're trying to do here, bring awareness, bring different perspectives, and really helping us like get step back from our life situations and get perspective, right? Sometimes we just get lost in our own perspective, and this is the whole purpose, to get different perspectives, to feel a little lighter, to get a little silly, even though things can get heavy, to see the fun and beauty and perfection in life, and to see that it's all love, to not get stuck with resistance at one point in time because something didn't go our way, to hold grudge, right? To let it go, to be like water, to experience fluid living, to not get stuck with the obstacles, to really be flowing with life and be at peace.
Yeah.
So I so appreciate everybody here. Thank you for
Thank you
hanging
so much.
on.
thank
I'm
you,
sorry
thank you
that we
so
went a
much.
little over. Appreciate you guys. And next week we have another great speaker, Carla. She actually survived cancer, and so she'll be sharing her cancer story and her empowerment. Really, she is such a transformed woman. I used to work with her. She was in the real estate field as an assistant. I think a receptionist she started off in. Now she is speaking at conventions. So we're in for a treat next week. So, anyways,
Brilliant.
I
If
will see
anyone
you
wants to
guys next
reach
time.
out, feel free to reach out too.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Cool.
Noe.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Guys have a good night.
Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you,
It's
everybody.
amazing.
Thank you,
Thanks, Ignacio.
everyone.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
guys.
No, I was thinking I could just stay on.
Yeah, no, we could just stay on here.
No worries. Okay,
That's what I figured.
brilliant.
Thank you, Luciana. Have a good night. Appreciate you. Hold on, let me end the recording.